Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm Adebola Adedugba. The top stories are this hour. Deputy Inspector General of Police Frank Umba commends conduct of voters during the Edo governorship election. Kidnapped Zamfara varsity students, staff released after 7 months in captivity. Police arrest Tanzania's opposition leader, block protest. And details shortly. Let's begin with updates on the outcome of the Edo governorship election, where the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the police contingent for the Edo State governorship election, Frank Umba, has briefed the media on the outcome of the election. He commended the people of Edo State for their conduct during the election.
Commendable manner in which they have conducted themselves throughout the course of the election. I want, in a very special way, on behalf of the Inspector General of Police, thank them for trusting, for having a very big trust in us, and for working with us throughout the course of this election, pre, during, and now that we are in the post-election phase. I also want to thank officers and men of the Nigerian Police Force, members of the armed forces, and personnel of other law enforcement agencies who supported us massively in the course of this election. Gentlemen of the press, I know you will want me to give an assessment of the conduct of our personnel in this election. And I will say without mincing words that officers and men of the Nigerian Police Force, supported by personnel of other law enforcement agencies, did excellently well during these elections. Throughout this election, there was no single death recorded. The election was violence-free. There was no recorded incident of the kidnap, assault, or molestation of any INEC staff or other persons, other stakeholders involved in the election.
In the meantime, Governor-elect of Edo State, Monday Okpebholo, has reacted to his declaration as the winner of the Edo governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. He won 11 out of 18 local government areas announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. In his victory speech, Okpebholo thanked the people of the state for choosing the right person for the job.
Very happy, and I thank Edo people for choosing the right person for the job. Look, a new Edo is rising. I'm here to develop Edo. I want to transform Edo the way it should be. I want to tell you that I'm starting from where I'm supposed to stop. And I want to let you also know that I would like to emulate what Akpabio has done in Akwa Ibom State. Edo will receive a new transformation. By the grace of God, Edo is back again.
President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Senator Monday Okpebholo, the All Progressives Congress candidates, on his victory in the Edo State governorship election. Senator Okpebholo was declared the winner by INEC after defeating the candidates of the PDP, People's Democratic Party, and LP Labour Party. President Tinubu praised APC leaders and governors for their efforts, calling the win a testament to the people's support for the party's economic reforms and commitments to progress. He urged Okpebholo to be humble in victory and unite the people of Edo State. The governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, has also reacted to the conclusion of the polls. I will try to bring you that sort in the course of the news bulletin. Meanwhile, governors under the platform of People's Democratic Party have commended the people of Edo State for trooping out in their large numbers to exercise their legitimate duty to choose a person who would govern the state for the next 4 years. The governors, however, remind the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of the need to live up to the oath of office of the Commission's principal officers and the expectations of the people to serve as an impartial umpire committed to deepening the country's democracy.
Gentlemen of the press, update on the illegal interruption of collation of Edo State governorship election results. The collation process was violently interrupted in several local government areas across the state. In Edo South local government, collation process was stopped in Oredo and Okpebholo and Ego and moved illegally to the state headquarters of the State Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Benin on the instruction of the Assistant Inspector General of Police in complete breach of the statutory collation process. Affected party agents and representatives were then ordered to converge on the INEC headquarters in Adebola, Okpebholo local government area for completion of the collation exercise. Upon arrival, agents of the PDP were not allowed into INEC state office for the exercise. On the other hand, agents of the APC were allowed unfettered access into the INEC premises to participate in the collation process. This was also in the breach of the Electoral Act section on the neutrality as well as the rules and regulations published.
In the meantime, the Edo State chapter of PDP says entries made by officers appointed by the INEC for the conduct of the Edo State governorship election are totally different from the actual result uploaded on the INEC IRF, thereby unjustly inflating vote in favor of the APC. The chairman, Edo State chapter of PDP, Dr. Anthony Azegbemi, at a briefing said the result did not reflect the wishes of the Edo people and demands a re-collation of results to address the identified irregularities.
The point we want to make in this press conference is drawing the attention of the INEC chairman and the commission to the massive irregularities we've noticed from our preliminary analysis of what is going on. Put clearly, you will expect that after an election is conducted, the Form EC8A is a primary document on which results are supposed to be transmitted. Those result sheets are basically uploaded onto a platform created by INEC known as the IRF. You would expect that the figures, the summation of the figures on Form EC8A should or ought to be the same as the ones you will get on IRF. You will also expect that the announcement by the Chief Returning Officer for the state or by the LGA Returning Officer at the State Collation Center should also tally with the previous two figures because it's about the same thing. What we have noticed, once again, preliminary analysis shows that there is massive discrepancies in those three figures for nearly all the local governments in the state.
Joining us to discuss the Edo State election outcome is a lawyer and as well as public affairs analyst, and that's Taiwo Ojomo. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure.
Okay, I kick off by asking, what do you make of the outcome of the just concluded governorship election in Edo State?
I think it is typical typical of most elections in Nigeria. I mean, it is not the worst of elections in Nigeria. We've seen worse elections, and of course, it's definitely not the best of elections. I think, particularly the umpire could have done a lot more. I mean, the INEC could have done a lot more. We had instances of glitches, the same glitches we've complained of in time past. But then again, I think I must single out the electorate in Edo State. For special commendation. I'm particularly impressed because, like I said in my last interview, I said Edo State is a bit prone to violence because a lot of people there are a bit hot-headed, with all respect to them there. So, but I'm particularly impressed with the way the electorate were composed and orderly in the election generally. But like I said, the outcome, as for the outcome, I think it's typical. It's not the best of elections. It's not the worst of elections in Nigeria. It could be better.
Well, we've seen different accusations as well as counter-accusations. For instance, the Edo State chapter of the PDP has rejected the result, alleging that entries made by INEC officials are different from what the actual results uploaded on the INEC Rev are, thereby, inflating votes in favor of the APC. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, again, these are not unusual in Nigeria. It's very, very typical. After a major election like this, the major parties involved in election would come. I mean, the party who has been announced to have lost in election by INEC would definitely come up with allegations and counter allegations. But then at the end of the day, it is left for the election tribunal to look into some of these allegations and then come up with his findings and of course his judgment on whether those allegations are true or not. But then again, I must say that, like I said earlier, the election is not the best of elections. There were apparent instances of rigging, and inconsistencies. For instance, throughout yesterday I was on Twitter and I saw. I mean, if those documents I saw on Twitter are anything to go by, then of course you can predict, you can say emphatically that there were all manner of irregularities and discrepancies in the results.
Now, I'm talking about irregularities. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just to bring into the.
Okay. Continue, please.
Just to bring it to the fray, different dynamics, we understand that a Labour Party also is accusing both the parties, and that's the APC and the PDP, of election malpractice. We understand, the PDP is accusing, APC of misconduct in the process of this election, as well as the APC also accusing the PDP. Now, the Labour Party is saying it's just a case of a big dog outwitting or outdoing the other party, as the PDP themselves are no saint either. What do you make of that?
Yes, again, I think I agree also with those who are of the opinion that the APC and the PDP are more or less siblings. These are, I mean, if you look at the history of both parties, you will see that the majority of people who membered the APC or who populated the APC were former members of the PDP and vice versa. So I'm not particularly surprised. Now, speaking of the performance of the Labour Party candidate, I personally would have expected. I mean, I thought that he would have had a better outcome. I mean, I felt he would have had a better outing, but I think the outing looks worse than I would have expected, because I actually thought that because if you go strictly by some of the things we saw online, the fact that there were a lot of young minds, young electorates rooting for him, but then so the man might not be incorrect to have alleged that there was massive rigging on the part of both the ruling party and the APC. I think the man might not be far from the truth, because I mean, looking at the massive support the man had online, I mean, and then from some of my friends that I contacted in Benin, and looking at me, trying to place that vis-a-vis the results, you know that something is wrong somewhere.
Okay.
So yes, yeah.
Well, just to bring into context, these are just allegations, not substantiated. But then, Talking about law enforcement agencies, in what ways would you say performance of security agencies during the conduct of the sub-national election in Edo State affected public trust in electoral process and also results being legitimate?
Yes, the thing I think I've said here before that we only hope and pray that the security agencies, particularly the Nigerian police force, will not allow themselves to be lured or to be used as tools in the hands of politicians. Unfortunately, there were allegations of instances where the police, where the law enforcement agents who were supposed to ensure that there was some kind of fairness and calmness, that they were the ones who actually conspired with politicians to rig elections. You know, for instance, I think the spokesman, the PDP chairman in Edo State, I think he did allege earlier that the security agencies did not allow agents of the PDP to gain access to INEC office, whereas the APC agents were allowed. You know, if that is true, then these are some of the instances, and this in the bigger picture can actually affect the kind of the trust electorate and Nigerians as I mean, in general, have in security agencies, because this is not good for democracy. I mean, definitely security agencies are meant to be neutral, and that's why they don't participate in elections ordinarily, in terms of they don't vote, because as security agents, your duty is to ensure that there's orderliness, you provide security coverage and cover for the electorate. But instances where these security agents are used as tool to perpetrate all manner of electoral malpractices, this is not good, and this is not healthy for democracy.
All right, thank you so much for your perspective on the news. Taiwo Ojumo, many thanks indeed for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Time for a break. When we return, kidnapped Zamfara varsity student staff released after 7 months. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in New York to represent Nigeria at the 79th United Nations General Assembly. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications from the Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha, made this known in a statement on Monday. According to Nkwocha, Shettima touched down at John F. Kennedy International Airport, New York, in the early hours of Monday. As directed by President Bola Tinubu, Shettima would lead Nigeria's delegation to this year's UNGA, deliver Nigeria's national statement, and participate in various high-level meetings. The 79th session of UNGA marks a crucial milestone in the global effort to accelerate progress towards the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The United States has stepped up to provide critical humanitarian aid to thousands of victims affected by devastating floods in Maiduguri and other parts of Borno State. And this was made known in a statement made available to journalists on Monday from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja. The U.S. government, through the U.S. Agency for International Development, launched relief efforts working alongside United Nations Agency and other partners. Over the past few days, USAID, in partnership with the World Food Programme, distributed hot meals to more than 67,000 people in 4 IDP camps, among other efforts. When I head to Borno State, where devastating floods that struck Maiduguri is now becoming history as the water has finally receded in most areas. A major cleanup efforts by residents to catch up on losses and businesses spring up amidst resilience and hope for better days. A News Central's Umaru Kirawa tells us more.
For many, everything is gone forever. Lives lost, properties destroyed, and the pain lingers. Yakubu Abubakar, News Central camera operator, had to meander through the flood with his aged mother and sister in the night to survive displacement alongside others at the NUJ Press Center.
Daren 10 ga watan Septemba mun ga tashin hankali. Dan da fari muna ganin zuwan ruwan abun kamar ba zai yiwu ba haka dai da kaɗan har ruwan ya zo ya taru ya cika unguwa, haka Allah ya kaddara zai faru. Wannan da kuke gani gidanmu ne nan ya rushe gashi nan, ɗakuna ne uku a jere.
Life has to continue for many after witnessing the devastating flood that swept away half of Maiduguri city and affected more than 2 million persons. So many families had to resort to taking refuge at government camps or houses of loved ones.
Gaskiya ba zai kowa ma ce zai iya mai da asarar da yi ba, don ga halin da ake ciki dama a ƙasan kuma wannan abin ya zo ya faru. Taimako kan mun samu taimako da yawa, wallahi taimako ta inda ba ma tsammani ba, taimako sun zo mana. Abin da mun dawo mun haƙura za mu ci gaba da gudanar da rayuwarmu.
Gaskiya kam alhamdulillah ala kulli halin, amma mun jarabta, sai dai dukkan wani abu da ya farko zai yi ƙarshe, in kuma an yi haƙuri ubangiji zai kawo sauƙin wannan lamari.
Babbar kasuwa ce wanda ta tara al'umma, dubbanin al'umma da baki da 'yan kasa duk anan ana kasuwa. Yau kuma alhamdulillah Allah ya kaddara kuduransa da ikonsa.
Garba Muhammad and other businessmen make clean-ups at their shops with the hope to grow better.
Yanzu muna kokari mu dan gyara waje mu share dan mu samu wajen neman cin abincin mu. Yau kusan kwana 10 kenan.
Abin da dai muka fita da shi daga ni har iyalaina har yarana sai kayan jikinmu, sai kayan da muka dora shi nan, amma kayan shago da kayan gida gaba ɗaya ruwa ya ɓata.
Here is the famous Gonge Bakingada, where both new and old tricycles are sold, now a shadow of itself.
12 dare da yake shiga gidanmu ina tosha da lamarin ya fi ƙarfi na, sai na fita sai na kira masu gidanmu na ce to wannan ruwan fa ya fi ƙarfi na.
Wannan kasuwa tana ɗauke da mutum kimanin sama da mutum 500 wanda suke cin abinci a nan gurin. Wannan kasuwa mun tafka gagarumar asara ta dukiyoyinmu a wannan guri. Mun sa hannu biyu mun rungumi wannan kaddara da ta faɗa mana, amma muna kira ga gwamnati da ta waiwaye mu, ta dube mu, ta shiga cikin wannan al'amari.
One thing is clear, while some local businesses in Maiduguri are slowly regaining their footing, other businessmen and women await the support from government and other organizations or individuals. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Talking security matters now, students and staff of Federal University Gusau in Zamfara State who were kidnapped by bandits have regained their freedom after 7 months in captivity. The victims were reportedly kidnapped during an attack in the Gusau area in February of this year. Security analyst and counterinsurgency expert Zagazola Makama confirmed the release in a report via X on Monday. Although Zagazola did not further explain the circumstances behind their release and whether or not a ransom was paid, he indicated that security forces played a pivotal role in securing the victims' freedom. The Transforming Church International has called for more investment in the clothing and fashion industry in Nigeria in a bid to create job opportunities for millions of youths nationwide. And this was as the church held its 2024 Clothing and Fashion Show in Abuja with the theme, Clothed and Not Ashamed. Youth Central's Emmanuel Bagudu has details.
The event attracted both young and old fashion enthusiasts, fashion lovers and creatives.
We're talking about clothed and not ashamed. And what we're simply saying is that, hey, listen to me. As a young person, you are free to clothe yourself, dress. But here's the point. You can dress yourself without undressing yourself. Permit me to say it that way. What that means is that what we're trying to promote is the fact that as a Christian young person, you can dress properly, dress trendy, but not revealing.
The organizers say that the show seeks to showcase creative and inspiring fashion designs and products, including apparels, shoes, bags, accessories, amongst others. It also empowers creative fashion designers and models, promoting Christian modesty while dressing according to the tenet of Christian values.
When opportunity meets preparedness, you call it good luck. When you have something in your hands, when there are investors in that line, you are readily available to be chosen, to be empowered or to be worked with. Business is the way.
It might be hard at the start point, but business is the way. At least you have so much of rest in it, knowing that it's your own, and then you can push and drive for it. It's the way. At least you're not under any boss trying to drive you, pushing you here and there. It's your business.
I was here Kana 2023, and it really blessed my business. One way I got a cash gift for being the first runner-up in casuals category, and apart from that, I got sales at the exhibition, at the sales fair, and after that time, I've gotten a better reach out to my customers.
My designs are really, really unique, and there's a statement in my design. Like, it passes a message. It makes you feel comfortable. You know, when you put on something, you feel comfortable about what you're wearing. Not just because of you want to be revealing, but you put on something, you cover your body and still look unique and amazing.
The lead pastor of the Transforming Church called on government to invest in the fashion industry, saying it has tremendous benefits.
An idea now is becoming something big, and this is not a flash in a pan. I want to let you know that this is going to become bigger and bigger and better by the grace of God.
The event aims to complement the progress made by the Nigerian fashion industry in the last few years. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Coming up, police arrest Tanzania's opposition leaders, block protest. We have details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying with us. Police have arrested Tanzania's top opposition figures as authorities move to block a mass protest in the commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. Despite an official ban, the opposition Chadema party had vowed to go ahead with a rally over the alleged kidnapping and killing of its members by security forces. Chadema said its chairman Freeman Mbowe and its deputy Tundu Lissu were both arrested on Monday, while riot police were stationed in key areas across the city to prevent gatherings. Chadema accuses President Samia Suluhu Hassan's government of returning the country to repressive tactics of her predecessor, John Magufuli. And South Africa's new government marked its 100th day in power on Sunday, and while the coalition has been credited with lifting market sentiment, it's arguably President Ramaphosa's earlier reforms that are driving the current optimism. Some analysts say the formation of South Africa's business-friendly coalition government has triggered a wave of investment announcement and positive sentiment not seen in years, spurring hope that Africa's biggest economy may finally be finding its footing after a lost decade and a half. One of the notable achievements is the mass power outages that had plagued the country since 2008. The rand has also rallied since the government's formation, the benchmark stock index hitting a record. And to talk about this, political analyst, Professor Nsikalelo Breakfast joins me to unpack this. Good afternoon from here. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let me start by asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the GNU's performance in its first 100 days based on its ability to deliver on campaign promises and also address key challenges?
I think it's still early days. It's quite difficult for me to quantify it, on a scale of 1 to 10. Suffice to say, I think it's still early days. When you were setting the scene, you spoke about how the market forces have found comfort in the GNU, which is true. Actually, I would argue and say the GNU is a brainchild of the market forces, largely because the idea was born in the beginning out of a plan that was introduced by the Democratic Alliance, which is the historically official opposition. So they came up with a plan of what they call a moonshot pact, that opposition parties must work side by side, which culminated into the multi-party charter. But that idea fell short in terms of taking off the ground, because they did not garner enough votes to constitute government. Then the market forces sponsored an idea of the ANC and the DA joining forces. Now, the ANC has found it very difficult to sell this idea to its members and opted to use the concept of government of national unity as opposed to a coalition in order to circumvent a criticism. Yes, you are right. I mean, we have not had power outages since, I think, the past 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, or more than that. We have not had other problems that we have had before. But we still have a slow pace of service delivery. I know that last week there was a cut of interest rates, which is good, meaning that at least the consumers can cool off in terms of paying interest. But I think that was necessitated by what is happening internationally in terms of the cut of interest rates in the US.
Well, I mean, I hear you when you say that it's still early days, but I'm not sure critics will agree with you on that. But then let's talk about what we saw recently about the GNU being shaken a bit when the president signed the Bella bill. I mean, do you foresee same in future? And if you do, what's your take on the standing of both DA, Democratic Alliance, as well as ANC in this coalition?
Just to be fair and square, I think, in my view, that is no big deal. That tension that exists between the DA and the ANC because of the Bella bill. Because where there are human beings, there are problems. Conflict is a natural phenomenon. And I like what they did because they have identified a way out, which is to institute a new forum now for conflict management, which was not there in the beginning, so that when there are disagreements, the government does not fall apart. And that doesn't mean that I'm in support or I'm not in support of the current administration. Now, the president, under normal circumstances, he would have signed that bill by himself without, consulting opposition parties, so long as it has gone through the legislative institute. So what he has done in terms of the Bella bill, he has put on hold some sections of the bill which are controversial in terms of the language policy, so that there could be wider consultation. But I think both the ANC, in the main, those are the main players in the GNU. They understand that in order for the government to flourish, they have to compromise on some of the policy issues.
Okay, let's talk a bit about foreign policy now. Let's shift gears to that. So far, what has been the impact of the GNU's international relations on the country's foreign policy, trade, and of course, security?
Yeah, that is a very important question, because there has not been a clear articulation of late since the inception of the GNU in terms of what government stands for, in terms of its outlook. Yes, I mean, when the president made his speech during the State of the Nation address, he was very abstract in terms of what government stands for, in terms of the culture of human rights, multilateralism, promoting democracy, development, the restructuring of the UN, and so on. But I'm sure you're well aware that the DA and the ANC, they don't see eye to eye with regard to the war that is underway between Hamas and Israel, and also the conflict that is at play at the moment in the Middle East between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel. The DA tends to gravitate to the global north and to the US as opposed to the global south. But I don't think that they've had disagreements in public in that regard. But historically, they don't see eye to eye, because the ANC is a liberation movement. It has always aligned itself with, I would say, progressive forces, and the DA has always aligned itself with countries like the US and other countries of the global north.
Well, we'll continue to keep in touch with you to see how politics takes shape in South Africa. But thank you so much for your time on the news. Professor Nsikelelo Breakfast, and that's a political analyst. Many thanks indeed for your insights. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visits Scranton Army ammunition plant in Pennsylvania as he kicks off a critical U.S. trip. And during the visit, he is expected to present his comprehensive victory plan to President Biden, lawmakers and international partners, detailing Ukraine's strategy to defeat Russia, including the potential use of long-range missiles against Russian targets. Scranton Army ammunition plants produces ammunition for Ukrainian army fighting a war against Russia. And for more on this, I am joined by our chief international correspondent in person of Afia Hagan. Afia, just tell us what do you think Volodymyr Zelensky's main objectives are on this trip to the U.S.?
Well, for Volodymyr Zelensky and for Ukraine on the whole, this is about continuing to keep the supportive forces of places like the United States, the United Kingdom, on side with the Ukraine. So this trip to the US will involve meetings that will take place around the UN General Assembly, which is happening in New York. Volodymyr Zelensky will also present this victory plan, as it's being touted, to Congress, as well as to the election candidates, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. He's also trying to persuade the US and its allies to allow the Ukraine to fire long-range missiles into Russia. Now, this is something that we have Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, trying to persuade US President Joe Biden to get behind. Zelensky has said that this autumn will determine the future of the war. He said that in a post on social media site X. And the White House is preparing a $375 million plan for aid for Ukraine to bolster the war effort. So it's again about Volodymyr Zelensky basically setting out and planning out what that huge aid budget will be for.
Okay, let's talk about how things have played out over the past weeks. I mean, how had Ukraine's counter-offensive in Russia played out over the past few weeks?
Well, yes, Ukraine's counter-offensive really took Russia by surprise over the past couple of months. And like I said, Volodymyr Zelensky has said that this autumn will determine the future of the war. Zelensky has made clear that he wants to pursue moving into Russian territory, and that is part of this plan. So this three-point plan that he has sort of stated out over the past weeks that he will put into force, the three-point plan will have further weapons donations, will have diplomatic efforts to force Russia to agree peace, and holding Moscow accountable for the full-scale invasion in 2022. That is in his victory plan. And the Ukraine has been pleading for months for the use of these long-range missiles. Now, over the past few weeks, as Ukraine has pushed into Russia, that has really been about the use of drones, which are pretty cheap. At 10 a penny, Ukraine has thousands of them, and they've been really using drones to attack sites in Russia and really get further into Russia than they ever anticipated. But now it's about pushing the use of long-range missiles.
Well, Afia, there are concerns that all of this war going on will affect voting in the elections coming up in U.S. How heavily will this war in Ukraine really impact voting in the upcoming election in the U.S.?
Well, it is a big election issue because of the amount of money that's been spent on aid packages. And there's people that believe, look, we shouldn't be, or the US shouldn't be funding Ukraine as much in this war effort. We've had Donald Trump saying that if he was in power, if he gets into power again, he'll be able to stop the war between Russia and the Ukraine in 24 hours. Volodymyr Zelensky, in an interview just before this visit to the United States, has said that he doesn't think that that is possible. He doesn't think that that's true, and he doesn't think that Trump necessarily understands the rigors of what is happening in Russia and the Ukraine. So it's a big issue for people, and people will be thinking about how much the US government is spending on this war. Do they want their candidate, whether that be Democrat or Republican, to continue spending the money on this war, or would they like them to peel that back? So it is going to feature heavily when people go to the ballot boxes and when they decide who to vote for.
All right, thank you so much for your perspective on the news, and that's our chief international correspondent in person of Afia Hagan. The Israeli military on Monday told people in Lebanon to move away from Hezbollah targets and vowed to carry out more extensive and precise strikes against the Iran-backed group. Military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said in a media briefing they advised that civilians from Lebanese villages located in and next to buildings and areas used by Hezbollah for military purposes, such as those used to store weapons, to immediately move out of harm's way for their safety. And this is a rare appeal made by the Israeli military to the people of Lebanon.
We advise civilians from Lebanese villages located in and next to buildings and areas used by Hezbollah for military purpose, such as those used to store weapons, to immediately move out of harm's way for their own safety.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden says the United States would do everything possible to prevent an escalation of war in the Middle East. And this comes as hostilities fled between Israel and Hezbollah. Affirming that he was worried about rising regional tensions, Biden told reporters from the White House South Lawn that his administration was going to do everything they can to keep a wider war from breaking out.
Yes, I am, but we're going to do everything we can to keep a wider war from breaking out. And we're still pushing hard. Thank you.
After the break, Nigeria ranks second in 2024 Global Crypto Adoption Index. Stay with us. Nigeria has become a major force in the global cryptocurrency scene in recent years, demonstrating incredible adaptation and tenacity in the face of governmental obstacles. Nigeria continues to rank second in the world on the 2024 Global Crypto Adoption Index, indicating a growing trend in the country's adoption of cryptocurrencies among its citizens, fueled by peer-to-peer novel transaction method, purchasing power, and population size. The complexity of Nigeria's cryptocurrency ecosystem will be discussed in detail, along with the effects of recent legislative moves, the changing views of government officials, and the prospect for further expansion in the industry. In sport, Nigeria's women under-19 team, the Junior Female Yellow Greens, began their 2025 ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers with a flying start, beating Tanzania by 4 wickets on Sunday in Kigali, Rwanda. Lilian Ude was the biggest performer for Nigeria, grabbing 5 wickets to power Nigeria to a confidence-boosting win in their group. Nigeria began the second innings slowly and steadily, and their batting order delivered 111 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in 16.5 overs. Christabel Chukwunye saw the most balls for Nigeria, and she hit 19, not out, while Victory Benedion, who spent the most time in the crease for Nigeria, hit 24 runs from 20 balls before she was bowled out by Kemaro. Nigeria's win puts them in strong position in the group ahead of their second game against Zimbabwe on Monday, as they hope to pick Africa's second ticket to the World Cup in Malaysia next year. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Deputy Inspector General of Police Frank Oba has commended conduct of voters during Edo governorship election. Kidnapped Zamfara varsity students, staff have been released after 7 months in captivity. We also told you that police have arrested Tanzania's opposition leaders' blocked protest. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on the CV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Adebola Adedugba.